All right, welcome to the annual Pat's Pulpit Fantasy Football Draft Special. It's your boy Pat Lane here with Matt St. Jean as always. And because it is the Fantasy Football Draft Special, we are joined by none other than Mr. Dale DeMont from Eat Sleep Fantasy. Dale, thanks for coming through, man. We've been doing this show since before my Pat's Pulpit days. And it's great. It's a great tradition that I love doing every year. And you're one of the best in the business, I think. And I love having you on every year, man.
Yeah, man, this is awesome. Your podcast. Well, your podcast was the first that I ever guested on. So
Look at
keeping
that.
the tradition alive. Let's keep doing it, man.
Look at that.
It's like year 5 or 6 at least, probably.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, it's definitely been a while. So it's been good. So what we're gonna do today, and listen, the way I look at it, and we're gonna get into a mock draft in just a second, right? But my thought process behind this fantasy football draft special is that if you're only gonna listen to one thing, if you're only gonna listen to one fantasy football podcast throughout the offseason, this can be the one, okay? Because we're going to do a mock draft. We're going to talk about a ton of guys. We're going to talk about, focus on this guy here or focus on that guy there or whatever the case may be. And we're going to try to get into as many guys as we can while going through a mock draft. We won't go all the way through, but we'll do a 12-team mock draft. If you have any questions, if you have a question about a player, throw it in the chat. We'll put it up on the screen. We'll talk about it, okay? So, but we're going to talk about as many players as we can. We'll talk about Dale's kind of drafting strategy and how he ranks his players, because I think that's interesting and important as well. But I do want to start off by talking about just some of the forms of fantasy football. There are so many different forms of fantasy football. There is redraft fantasy football. There is keeper fantasy football. There is dynasty fantasy football. There is daily fantasy football. There is guillotine league fantasy football, which I know you were talking about in the group chat today, Dale. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite kind of draft?
I keep it simple. For me, it's redraft. I love the draft process. The dynasty, you don't get as much of that. And I was telling Matt before the show a little bit, like I'm just not into prospecting, rookies. I'll read up on them, and I just don't get hyped up. I know there's a lot of dynasty players that are probably yelling at me right now, but it's just it's not for everybody, and it's definitely I'm in a couple and I enjoy them. But if you have a bad team, I'm not interested in waiting 5 years to turn it around.
No, that's a good point. I'm always. I took over. I'm in a league with Matt, and I took over a bad team, and I just sold the farm. I'm like, forget it, dude. I'm trading everyone. I'm turning, and I was able to turn the team around and make the playoffs. Lost in the first round, but I was able to turn around and make the playoffs. So it's like I'm the same way. I'm like, I'm not tanking this year. Like, what do you? No, I'm not doing that. Like, get out of here, man. So. Yeah. But there are players that are like, oh, Bijan's coming out next year. Like, screw it. Let's go 2-14 and win. You know what I mean? So, but it's fun.
Yeah. I see it. I get why people like it. But
you got the help of my first round pick over there, Pat.
I did. That's very true. Too. I did. But you used my players to finish second in the league, so it worked out.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So it worked out. And Dark Blue Gold makes a good point about redraft, and you get a chance to root for a ton of players over the years, right? And I think that's one of those things where like the redraft process is fun, but then it's also like sometimes you have those years where you remember and you're like, oh no, like what did I do? Like the one year that I took, actual terrible person, but Zach Stacy in a keeper league in the first round of the keeper league, because it's 2-team keeper. So it's really the third round. I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be great for the Rams when he played for the Rams, and he like was terrible. And then, went to jail and whatever. But it was like, oh my God. And people were like, yeah, okay, a little bit of a reach, but like I needed a running back, and everyone kind of understood. And it was like, wow, that was a terrible pick.
Did not age well.
Yeah. No, it did not. No, it did not.
Yeah, the dynasty, your mistakes haunt you.
That's it. That's really it. I mean, if you're not willing to trade someone or give to someone up or whatever, I remember in that same league that I drafted, man, I have some bad memories of that league, but in that same league, I traded Jimmy Graham for Justin Blackman and like a bunch of trash, like just garbage. Jimmy Graham for like Blackman and like, Doug Gabriel, I think, was in the deal. It was just like, it was awful, but I was just like, whatever. I needed wide receivers. All of my wide receivers were hurt. I had Graham and Gronk together. So I was like, all right, I'll trade Jimmy Graham. That's fine. Justin Blackmon. That was the Jaguars bye the week that I traded him. Justin Blackmon a week later was arrested and never played football ever again. He never played a game on my team ever. It's like, come on, dude. So that's just, it happens sometimes, just the way it goes, So, but yeah, those keeper leagues, and they haunt you, and you're like, oh my God, why did I do that? So, but what are you gonna do? So, but anyways, let's get into. So we're gonna get into a mock draft, okay? And like we said, I like it. I'm in far too many leagues, but I'd like to do a little bit of both, right? You said the redraft leagues are a lot of fun. I love redraft leagues. I think the best way to experience fantasy football, in my opinion, is to do everything. Do a redraft league, do a dynasty league, do a keeper league, do an auction draft. Auction drafts are awesome. They're so much fun. Mm-hmm. They're a lot of work. They're incredibly stressful, but they're so much fun. And so try a little bit of everything, because, you can't, you can't get the full experience unless you actually get to try everything. Right.
I saw I think it was on TikTok last night. I saw a format I hadn't seen before to just do a straight up sleeper league. And you take away the top 10 or 20 players at every single position. You can't use them. So you have to be looking at all the guys at the bottom of the barrel, looking at slot receivers and your third down backs, trying to build a team out of them.
I like it.
That's cool. I like it too.
That's cool. Yeah, anything that's just different, because there's so much out there right now that, it's just the market is saturated with a bunch of different things. That's why, Dale, you were talking about, can you explain to people just about what the Guillotine League is? Because I think that's one that a lot of people haven't heard about, which is really interesting.
Yeah. So basically it's an 18-team league now with, the extra week. And every week the lowest scoring team gets kicked out. And when they get kicked out, all their players go to the waivers and everybody bids on the players. You have a fab budget throughout the whole season. So the first week, if Josh Allen sucks it up and, you have Josh Allen, Devontae Adams on the waiver wire, you can spend it all on them week one. You have to really manage your fab. And so it's basically last man standing every week. There's a couple different variations, but the basic one is every week somebody gets eliminated and kicked out until you go all the way through. Week 17, there's two guys standing.
So
it's cool. Fun. It's a lot of fun. I think we're going to do it as a listener league this year.
I think that's awesome. I just think that's so fun. And then, but the worst part is, if you're out week one, you're like, you invested all this time and you're like, I got to pay attention to this. And then you're out week one and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. Especially if you think you have it's an 18-team league. So you're going to have two studs maybe. And then you're banking on, Rex Burkhead and, those guys.
Right.
It's tough. You're hoping, your third running back is, for some reason gets a crazy vulture touchdown and wins you the week.
Yeah. Well, that's even in a league like that, you take a flyer on Mike Davis and Kenyon Drake because J.K. Dobbins may not play week one. And it's like, hey, I only need this guy literally for 1 week. I'll just drop him. And then whoever, pops up, I'll try to bid on that guy instead. But if I can steal Mike Davis and he ends up being the starting running back, then all I need him for is week one, so
just survive that week. That's all you got to focus on. What am I going to do to not be last this week?
Exactly.
Do whatever you can.
Exactly.
So it's fun. We don't do trades either. That just muddies the waters.
Ooh, wow. Right. So it's like your team is your team. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty cool. So I've never done an elimination race in cycling. Dark Blue Gold says there's an elimination race in cycling. Never heard of that one, but I would assume you hit checkpoints, and every time you hit a checkpoint, the lowest guy is see you later.
Yeah,
so
that's it. Just don't be last.
That's it. All you got to be. It's like running away from a lion. You don't got to be the fastest guy. You just got to be faster than the slowest guy. That's all.
Yeah.
So, but all right. So let's get into the mock draft again. It's a 12-team league. It's normal rules. It's not a super flex. Super flex is when you can start a quarterback in the flex position. It's not going to be one of those leagues. It's just a single quarterback league, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end, and half-point PPR. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to pull up, for those of you that are watching on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, we do all these shows live on the Pat's Pulpit YouTube channel. We also do them live on Twitch as well. So, so make sure you subscribe over at the Pat's Pulpit on YouTube and on Twitch, and we can go from there. So we are drafting in the 5th spot. Okay. And so Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp went 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're up to 5. And I'm gonna throw it to you, Dale. Dale, where are we going? What's your thought here at 5?
I mean, for me, it's going to be either Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook. I know Justin Jefferson's a beast, but this year's a weird year where you have 5 running backs. I think you have 5 running backs that you're taking before. I think that you're even taking before Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson. And that's going to be Taylor, McCaffrey, Henry, Cook, and Eckler. I think you take all those before Kupp and Jefferson this year.
Now let me ask you. Would you do the same thing if it was a full PPR, or could you be swayed to someone like Cooper Kupp in a full PPR as opposed to a half-point PPR?
It would sway me a little bit, but man, it's really hard at this point at 105 to not get Derrick Henry or Dalvin Cook, and I think they're kind of neck and neck. I wouldn't be mad flip-flopping either one of those. Derrick Henry, he should be fully recovered. He's just so good. Yes. I mean, he was easily. Would have been the number 1 back last year.
Yeah.
I think I'd go Henry here, but a full PPR, I get it. I wouldn't be mad at it, but
when you're looking at something like this, how much are you weighing? I know Tennessee got rid of AJ Brown. It's a very different team this year than it was last year. They're going to be relying a lot more on Henry. Do you think that means he's going to produce more because he's getting the ball? Or do you think it means he might have some issues because by the end of the year, he's slowing down?
No, they're going to, I don't know if he'll slow down. I mean, I think I think he has another good year in him. Dude, the guy gets so much work, and he's had so much work forever. I think he's a robot. Just like, we're all wondering, you saw Adrian Peterson kind of fall off a little bit. But even his later years, he had some good games, So I think this could be the same with Derrick Henry. He's just so big, so fast, so strong. If he's fully recovered, from his injury, like they say he is, I think they're going to hand him the ball a million times and hope for the best. I don't think the work issue is going to be an issue at all.
I think you're on point with that, especially since they have 0 people behind him, nobody.
Yeah.
And so it's
him
right.
And Tannehill.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And maybe Treylon Burks will be something.
Yeah. No, I mean, you got Malik Willis, the quarterback that they drafted. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in, and I mean, Tannehill is no slouch, I get it, but Malik Willis comes in, he's a scrambler. Does that help or hurt Derrick Henry? I don't know, but it changes the game a little bit for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's awfully interesting. Now, just out of curiosity here, just for people that are drafting before 5, Taylor went 1, McCaffrey went 2, Eckler went 3. Do you agree with that order? Is that your order that you have as well?
No, I have Eckler 5, so I have Henry and Cook before Eckler. But again, I mean, they're all in the same tier to me. Pat, year after year, we talk about the tiers and stuff. So if you really like Eckler and you really enjoyed cheering for the Chargers, I wouldn't be one to tell you not to do that. I think it's an okay pick, but personally, I'm drafting Henry and Cook.
Yeah, and Dark Blue Gold says too, maybe if it were PPR, it might swing you a little bit towards Eckler as opposed to someone like Henry as well.
No,
right? You get more points.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, so he's right.
All right, let's go Henry here, and then we'll go to the second round. And I do want to get back to that tier stuff because I know people obviously have listened to this show before. We've been doing this for a few years, but I'd love to reiterate that again because it's stuff that that people sometimes forget. Okay, so so I think it's important. So let's see. The end of the first round ends with Dalvin Cook, then Najee Harris, then Justin Jefferson, then Jamar Chase, Debo, Diggs, and then ends with Mixon. That guy goes Mixon, Kamara at the swing. That's interesting. Then DeAndre Swift, CeeDee Lamb, Adams, Aaron Jones, Saquon. Oh, I was hoping Saquon would draft to us, and Travis Kelce. Man, that's quite a crew. That's quite a crew right there that went in that spot. What are your thoughts on Saquon this year?
I'm really conflicted. He's not competing at all. He hasn't played a lot though. I mean, he's injury prone. I mean, last year, even the year before, he didn't play a full season. Last year Saquon Barkley played 12 games and he only outperformed the fantasy projections 4 out of those 12 weeks. If that tells you anything. I don't really know how to read into that stat, but it is something. So I don't know. I mean, I think he's a good quarterback. A running back. He could be a top 12 running back for sure. 2.6 is about where he goes in most drafts. I feel like, yeah, I think top 12 running back is definitely a possibility.
What do you think about the pick at 2.7 there, Travis Kelce? Is that the right spot for the first tight end to come off the board?
No, a little early. I would. I mean, if it were me drafting, I have guys like Javonte Williams, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs. I know Debo was Debo taken already, right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was taken. Yeah, he was
Debo's
taken
in the first round.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that was a little early, but yeah, I would have like Adams, Javonte Williams before him for sure. And again, if you really like Travis Kelce and you really think that tight end position, what is it, 207? I think that's about where he's going to go. I never get Travis Kelce because I think that's too early, but that's where he's going to go.
Yeah. We did a league where we had, keepers and then guy out the first overall pick. I mean, so we're basically into the third round. First overall pick went Travis Kelce, and I'm like, what are we doing? We'll put it this way. I took Derrick Henry third. So the guy took Travis Kelce over Derrick Henry. And I'm like, what are we doing here? So
that's crazy.
But some people love the advantage that you get. And of course that comes into value-based drafting, right? You get the advantage at tight end over somebody else. But you mentioned tiers before. We've talked about it 100 times, but just walk us through what tiers are again, just so everyone can hear what it is, because I think, to me, this is how everyone should have their rankings. And I don't understand why, when you see rankings from a lot of these sites like ESPN and Yahoo, they don't have it in tiers. And I just don't understand why they don't.
Yeah. I'm not sure why either. So tiers, basically, you're grouping the players all, together in that same group. So for me, I have like my top 5 or 6 guys all in tier 1. And so if I can get any of those guys in basically any order, I do have the rankings, but for instance, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, and Austin Eckler are all in my first tier. So I'm really happy with getting any of those guys. So if somebody says, "Oh, Austin Eckler's, my second best," like I'm not going to argue that. Like, okay, they're all kind of in the same tier. You can't really argue the exact position, I don't feel like.
Right.
But then there is a difference between like Dalvin Cook and Najee Harris. They're in 2 different tiers for me. So that's where I would definitely put, okay, everybody needs to draft Dalvin Cook over Najee Harris.
Right.
Just based off the tiers.
Yeah. And I love that idea of it. And, look, we talk about the Patriots all the time. Obviously, it's a Patriots podcast, right? And we talk about how Belichick has that same thing. Belichick drafts in real life, like Dale was talking about drafting in fantasy, right? Where we say, okay, we're in the second tier wide receivers here. We got 4 or 5 guys that are around here, but my second tier running backs, we got 2 guys. So maybe we should take one of these running backs because, there's going to be one of these guys from the tier of wide receivers here the next time we draft, right? And so it it allows you to make that decision as you go forward. So I think it's great. I don't know why more people don't do it, to be honest with you, but I do like it. So you got Najee firmly in that second tier for you at running back?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, along with guys like Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
And really that's DeAndre Swift is in that tier for me as well.
Okay.
So we got Nick Chubb here on the board at 208. Does that mean that's the guy you'd want to take here?
It's a no-brainer for me. Yeah. There's after this round, the third round gets really weird in every single one of my drafts so far. And you'll see, like, we'll have some interesting picks to go from. But in the second round, middle of the second round, I think Nick Chubb is an easy choice here. My running back 9 overall.
Yeah, and I don't understand why people seem to be so low on Chubb this year. It's just kind of like, it's one of those things for me that I just don't. I look at it and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand why. And I know Kareem Hunt's there and stuff, so fine. But Nick Chubb consistently performs well all the time, every single year. I just don't. And now, especially with Kareem Hunt unhappy about his salary, right, about his contract situation, there's even more of a reason to think that Chubb is going to have an even better year than he usually.
Nick Chubb is going to be the guy in this offense for at least the first 11 weeks too.
Right. And Kareem Hunt's great. I mean, he's a really good running back, but it just so happens that, he is Nick Chubb's backup. So, you could say whatever you want about how awesome he is. Nick Chubb's going to get his work no matter what. right?
Right.
I think he's going to get his snaps. He's going to get his touches. He could still be super productive on 13 to 15 touches, but he should get more than that anyways. But I mean, the dude's awesome. So
Yeah,
definitely a
just
top
so
10 running back for me.
just so people that aren't watching, and listening later know, we're looking at Fournette, Nick Chubb, Mark Andrews, Mike Evans right here, and Tyreek Hill. And listen, people, whatever, we could talk about whoever you want here, but like, I'm with you there. I think Chubb is the easy answer here. I will say, if it's a keeper league or like some sort of dynasty type league, you could perhaps convince me of Javonte Williams, maybe in this situation, because of the added bonus that he's in his second year. But like a straight redraft, I think Chubb is an absolute no-brainer. And I think if you like Javonte Williams a lot, you could theoretically get him in the third round. Now, I don't know if you're drafting your third running back right away, but depending on what's there at wide receiver, maybe you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So just touching on that, last night I did a draft, a pretty competitive league, and I went strictly value based. Like I ignored everything and just said, hey, I'm going to get wherever the biggest value is at every single pick. And the team turned out pretty good. I was waiting on a tight end to be a value in the rounds, and it just kept falling. I never got the value. And I ended up getting Cole Kmet like in the third to last round of the draft. I was completely happy. And that's just when the value fell. So I why reach for players? Just keep drafting the best one available. I feel like you want some balance, obviously, right? You don't want 8 running backs to start your league with or your team, but I think there's some value-based drafting is definitely a thing.
So my buddy Brian here is trolling me just a bit because we're in the middle of a slow draft right now. He said, "How long should someone wait till they pick a running back?" I waited till the 5th round to take a running back, but I do have, as he said, if the 5th round is not too late, I would feel with AJ Dillon and Mondre. I did draft AJ Dillon in the 5th round. And then Mondre, but here's the thing, right? And this is where it comes up. Sometimes now, a draft hits it where you're like, what do you want me to do, right? At number 5, I took Cooper Kupp, right? At 2-8, I took CeeDee Lamb. He's just sitting there. At 3-5, I took Michael Pittman, and then at 4-8, I took Darren Waller. And we're talking about a full PPR draft, so it's like those guys are sitting there. It's like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm going to take those
value.
Guys. So, and that's exactly what it is,
Then you balance it out later in the
Well, and that's really what it takes, right? Because so I took Dillon and Ramondre, but then later on in the draft, I take Rashad Penny. I took Michael Carter with the bet that Breece Hall isn't going to take all the work. A guy that I love later on, and especially in keeper leagues, like absolutely love, is Zamir White, because Zamir White is a guy that Josh Jacobs is not coming back. There is no other backup in Vegas. He's the backup in Vegas. If Josh Jacobs goes down, it's the Zamir White show, right? And I thought he looked pretty good in preseason. So, like, that's a guy that I'm targeting super late in drafts, and especially in, like, keeper leagues and dynasty leagues and stuff like that. So, I think I like it a lot.
And Josh Jacobs hasn't, like, fully impressed. Like, he's never really impressed. He puts up numbers when he's the guy. He doesn't jump off the page to me. So, like, yeah, I could see it.
And that coaching staff does not seem super tied to him either. They're not going to be. They could be quick to pull the plug if they want somebody else out there.
Yep.
There you go.
All right, so we started off with Henry and Chubb. We're in the 3rd round now. After Chubb was taken, Javonte Williams, like you said, Pat. Josh Allen was taken, the first quarterback. Tyreek Hill, Mark Andrews was the second quarterback. Mike Williams of the Chargers. Keenan Allen went right after Mike Williams. Interesting. So now we're looking at guys. The highest available are a couple of wide receivers: AJ Brown, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman. I really like James Conner as well. Kyle Pitts is available.
Now, I look at this. Now, I'm just wondering what you think about. Like, I see AJ Brown is going to be. He's a really good receiver, but he's going to be one of 2 guys there. T. Higgins is one of 2 guys. Pittman's one of 2 guys. Am I crazy for thinking I might like the value with Kyle Pitts here a lot? This guy who already has 1,000-yard season, who is going to be the guy in Atlanta this year with the new quarterback, who might rely on the big body tight end.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, is that quarterback going to deliver? That's the biggest question, right? If
I'm just waiting for Desmond Ritter to show up. That's my guy down there. But,
right. Yeah. I agree. I think Ritter could be definitely better than Mariota. But then, okay, you have a rookie quarterback then. As good as he is, he's going to be a rookie quarterback making mistakes. And unless he's, crazy awesome, we don't know. But yeah, I think I wouldn't hate you for that argument for sure. I wouldn't take him here.
Okay.
I mean, I'm looking at my rankings now. I do have him in the same tier, actually, that I have AJ Brown in, if that means anything to you. I like T. Higgins, too. And it doesn't bother me that Jamar Chase is there. And actually, I think T. Higgins, as crazy or maybe it's bold, I don't think it's crazy to think that T. Higgins can outperform Jamar Chase. Like, it's possible.
Yeah.
It's, maybe not super likely, but it's definitely possible. I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the year if T. Higgins has more fantasy points.
I mean, Brown, Higgins, Pittman, Pitts. I mean, those are all guys that can go for 1,000 yards and a bunch of touchdowns too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep. My thing is that, I actually disagree with you here, Matt. I don't think Pittman has anyone else, right? I mean, Pittman has Alec Pierce on the other side of him, basically, right? Like, so to me, if it's me choosing here, I'm going Michael Pittman. I loved Pittman last year. I love him even more this year because I feel like he's got a significantly better quarterback, a guy that can actually get him the ball. And he doesn't have a lot of talent around. He doesn't have a lot of competition around him for targets, right? He's going to be a target monster. We saw what he could do last year. I love Pittman this year. But again, I'd be okay with Brown or Higgins too. I do think Dark Blue Gold mentioned that he does sometimes target Kyle Pitts here at this, in the third round. But to me, it's tough, man. Like you said, Dale, it's tough to take him over Brown, Higgins, or Pittman. Like, I just feel like those three guys have so much upside going into this year that one of those guys is going to be a top 10 wide receiver, I think. And I think it's going to be Pittman, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was Brown or Higgins,
Look, I have all these guys actually. I have Pittman right outside of this tier, but it's pretty close in the rankings. What's crazy is all the guys we're talking about: AJ Brown, Kyle Pitts, Cortland Sutton. I'm going to throw in there, and Michael Pittman.
Okay.
Those four guys, they all have brand new quarterbacks, and I think they've. Okay, Michael Pittman got an upgrade. I think.
Yep.
Cortland Sutton definitely got an upgrade.
Oh yeah.
Kyle Pitts, I don't know, maybe. I don't know.
That's probably a downgrade there.
I would imagine not. Yeah.
Yeah. AJ Brown, I think that's an upgrade.
I'm gonna say downgrade because I think that they're gonna lean so heavily into the run up there. Although he was in Tennessee and they did that there too.
Right.
Yeah, they're not gonna lean. Yeah, it's not gonna be a run heavy as much as Tennessee was. That's for sure. I think he's gonna see more targets than he did in Tennessee.
I think so too. Yeah.
He's a beast too. So it's kind of though all changing quarterbacks. So it's a little volatile. I think their fantasy value.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's interesting. I mean, listen, I'm okay with anything right here. I'm down with AJ Brown if you want. I feel like he gets hurt every year, but then again, like worrying about that is kind of like you don't really think about injuries, I guess. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
I would say AJ Brown or Kyle Pitts. I'll let you guys decide. I'll click it.
All right, Brown's my pick.
Okay.
I'll let you do that, Pat.
Well, I hope so. Because you clicked it before you said.
Yeah, clicked it. Sorry.
One last word on Pitts there is I like the value at tight end and that you might get a guy who can produce like a receiver at the tight end spot, and then you can grab a receiver who's going to get you almost the same number of points. You can get Terry McLaurin here or Jalen Waddle in the next round.
Look at this. Look at Dark Blue Gold said the same thing. I agree with you. I mean, that's one of those things. That's kind of the argument, right, for these guys, Mark Andrews and Kelsey and Pitts, and it of course depends on where you draft them. So it's really interesting to take a look at that. And you're right, the wide receivers are so deep that if you take a chance on a guy like that, I think it makes sense. Now, the other guy that you mentioned, Dale, I want to get your opinion on Zeke, but the other guy you mentioned is James Conner, who James Conner, I think a lot of people kind of wrote off as like not fun, right? He's like not flashy. He's not sexy, but like he just gets the job done. He just like, and there's nobody in Arizona with him this year. Like he's the guy that's going to run the ball in Arizona this year. And he had a ton of touchdowns last year. He's going to have a bunch of touchdowns again this year. That's a guy that, you're getting in the at the end of the third round, who's a good player. Now, we obviously already have 2 running backs, so we probably didn't need to get a third one, but like we could have taken a third one. He throw him in our flex, and we don't have to worry about flex for the rest of the year.
I think James Conner can win a lot of people's leagues. I understand he got bailed out fantasy points wise a few times last year, right? Like,
Right.
was it last year? I think he got like 10 yards and like 3 touchdowns or something stupid. But I think he's like you said, he gets a job done. The only guy really behind him is Darrell Williams, and whatever. Yeah, exactly. So I think James Conner is going to win a lot of people's leagues. If you get him, you're gonna have to reach for him a little bit.
Right.
But if you can, like I said, like, in that end of the second round is probably where you need to take him if you get him.
Agreed.
I mean,
Hopkins for a little bit there. You might get some more red zone touches too. Get a couple more touchdowns in there early in the season.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a good offense. I think Kyler Murray's going to get better too. Yeah. So the more that offense moves the ball, the more opportunity he's going to get.
Agreed. All right, so a bunch of guys went in there. Breece Hall, man, at the top of the fourth. Like, what are we doing taking Breece Hall at the top of the fourth? Like, you can't be okay with that, right? Are you okay with that? No,
right?
I'm
not at all. No, not at all.
I don't understand. Guys, it's the Jets. It's still the Jets. And the Jets have openly said they're going to use both guys. They have openly said that. So, like, now you're not going to believe. I mean, I guess don't believe the Jets because they suck. But, like, still, like, they're telling you it's going to be a timeshare and you're drafting Breece Hall so early. It's crazy. I know he's a rookie, but stop reaching for Breece Hall, for God's sakes.
So the problem is, and I'm going to butcher this stat, and I shouldn't even try to say it because I don't remember the whole thing. But it was a crazy. This is how easy fantasy is, by the way. If you ever listen to my podcast, I'm just guessing stats that I've heard like 2 weeks ago. But a crazy matter of, I think it was like 7 years in a row or something. A rookie running back has had like a top 12 performance or top overall running back top 12.
Yeah,
over the last like 5 or 6 or 7 years or something like that. I think a lot of people are hungry to see who this running back is going to be, and I think Breece Hall has the best chance.
Dameon Pierce.
But Dameon Pierce for sure. I don't know if I would draft Dameon Pierce.
I still wouldn't either.
Value,
I wouldn't
based
either.
off value, sure. I would much rather not get Breece Hall here and then get Dameon Pierce at a better value. It's Michael Carter is going to be in there for every third down. You know that. He's going to be a pass catching back, and then sometimes they'll split first and second downs. So that leaves Breece Hall maybe 1 or 2 snaps per set of downs because they're going to go 4 and out pretty often.
Yeah. One other guy that I'm super high on that I wanted to ask you about, Courtland Sutton. My personal feeling is I am passing on Courtland Sutton early and taking Jerry Jeudy a round and a half to 2 rounds later. That's what I'm doing. I think it's going to be effective. I don't believe that Sutton. Everyone keeps saying Sutton's going to be amazing, and he never does it. And it's partly because he's been hurt. But I just do it. And dark blue gold. Yes, I was super high on Jeudy last year. It's true. I know. But this is the year he's going to actually stay healthy and not get hurt on the opening drive of the season again like he did last year. And I had him in all my fantasy leagues. But I do think that the value is better than getting a guy like Courtland Sutton in the third. If you can get him in the fifth, I think that you're in good shape. I want to see what your opinion is on
that. It's okay. I mean, I think your team has a better chance of winning. So around where Courtland Sutton's should be drafted, right? He's going around like Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Mike Williams. I'd rather have Courtland Sutton over those guys. So if you're drafting and you're getting a wide receiver and you're picking between Mike Williams or Keenan Allen or Courtland Sutton, I think the value is Sutton, 100%. I wouldn't reach any further than that. I mean, I'll take T. Higgins, Tyreek Hill, those guys way before Courtland Sutton.
Yeah.
But if you get them I think you can get them at a value. I don't think, I think most people have them ranked around like wide receiver 20, 15 or something. I don't know, 15 or so. I think getting them a little bit higher than that is a value even.
By the way, Brian agrees with me. Not that it matters. But Brian agrees with me, says that Judy, and again, here's some more Eat Sleep fantasy stats for you. Judy dominated targets, receptions, and yards every game they played together, him and Sutton last year. I have no idea if that's true or not, but I'm going to believe him and assume that it is true.
See, me personally,
I dare you to fact check me.
I'm just staying away from the Denver receivers if I have the choice, because I don't know what I'm getting from Russell Wilson this year, even though it's an upgrade. There's health concerns. You don't know what the target share is going to be.
It's true.
If there's somebody else with similar value,
I felt that way a couple months ago. And then, you watch all these Russell Wilson videos, and he has all these cool settings, and he's doing all this cool stuff with footballs. Like,
Broncos country.
Let's ride.
Broncos country. Let's ride.
How can you not draft him after all these cool like took all my fears away. Like,
so good. All right, so here's what we're at. Okay, so our team right now, I don't even remember our team. Derrick Henry. Let's say Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, AJ Brown. Okay, so that's our squad so far. We are the number one guy on the board right now is Justin Herbert. So that's interesting. Eli Mitchell's already gone. Deontay Johnson's gone. David Montgomery just went. So they're really, the running backs are gone for the most part. And this is the problem with waiting to draft running backs, is that unless you're high on a guy like A.J. Dillon, unless you think Ramondre Stevenson can take over for Damian Harris, or you believe that Damian Harris can be, another RB2 like he was last year, and you're okay with that, if you're waiting on running back, you're not getting the guys that are that good. Now, Rashad Penny, you can get a little bit later, and he's kind of an RB1, but then what are we getting from Rashad Penny? Can he stay healthy, right? So, Jesus, Chase Edmonds went, Jiminy Christmas, we're taking Chase Edmonds in the 4th round? What is going on here, right? So, were you going to start reaching for running backs? I mean, if you can go over to the running back tab, Dale, let's even see what's available right now. The running backs
Chase Edmonds. Sorry, let me.
No, it's all right. Yeah, so you're looking at A.J. Dillon, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs, Antonio Gibson. Right now, Gibson is in a pretty good position because he paid a few guys to carjack Brian Robinson, and so he's gonna be the number one back there for a while. But they don't want him as the number one back; he just is, right? So so that's one of those things where where it gets tough to deal with. Now, Dark Blue Gold brings up a good little point right here. Maybe take the tight end situation and take a look at Darren Waller. That is a guy that, in my opinion now, should be very high up on your list. I'm not sure where you have him ranked as far as tier-wise is. To me, he should be in the top tier with all those guys because it's the Josh McDaniels offense. I've been so high on Renfro and Darren Waller all offseason because what does Josh McDaniels do? He throws to the slot guys and he throws to the tight ends. That's what that offense does. And so Hunter Renfro is going to catch 120 passes this year, and Darren Waller is going to get 130 targets this year. It's going to happen. And so that's why I just think that Waller, with the volume of throws that they're going to have, I think that those two guys are going to be awesome. And Renfro, you can get late. I mean, Renfro's going the Edelman range slot receiver wise, and I love it. I mean, he had 100 catches last year with 9 touchdowns. And you're getting him in the 9th round. It's crazy.
Now things have changed a little bit in Vegas, right? Getting a big body like Devontae Adams in there,
right?
I think that scares people away a little bit.
Yeah,
I do. I like Darren. Darren Waller's my 4th best tight end. Ranked 4th among tight ends for me. I get it. He's actually in the same tier as overall. I'm saying is the same tier as Jalen Waddle and Deontay Johnson and those guys.
Yeah.
If for me, and I know this is going to sound crazy because I wait for quarterbacks 199 times out of 100. I wait on quarterbacks. I don't get quarterbacks. Justin Herbert, if you're just looking at value and draft value, I think it's a really good value to get Justin Herbert here. He's my second highest ranked quarterback for the year, and getting him in the late 4th.
Is Waller still available here or no? Did he already go?
Let me check. I think Waller is available. I think he is.
Curious.
Did he go? Yep. And
Kittle available too.
Yeah.
Well, what that might mean though is that one of those guys may come back to you, right? If you have Kittle and Waller, and Kittle scares me just because he can't stay on the field, but like if you have Kittle and Waller in the same tier, right? Or you think similarly of them, now we obviously we have a few picks before we draft again, but at the end of the fourth round here, we got probably like 10 picks between now and then, right? So So at the end of the day, right, you look at it and say, okay, well, if it's 10 picks, chances are one of those tight ends is going to be available. And if not, we're going to end up with a really solid wide receiver too, at the next pick. And so I don't mind going Herbert here either. I'm super high on him. I had a number 3 overall pick. No, I had the number 2 overall pick on the Scott Fishbowl this year, and I took Herbert because I think Herbert is just, of course, that's a super flex, but still, I just think I have Josh Allen 1 and Herbert number 2. Like I just think
so. This is kind of double-edged sword. One, Herbert's great value, but this also tells me that these drafters are not drafting quarterbacks yet. As long as there's not a run, we might be able to wait another round or two and get, I don't know, like Jalen Hurts, like 3 or 4 rounds later. That might pay off, right? So given that he's a value now doesn't necessarily mean that we can't get a better value later. So that's kind of a gamble that we can take. I like Terry McLaurin here as well.
Yeah, I like McLaurin a lot, especially should be an upgrade at quarterback for him. I think he's getting better. Probably going to throw the ball a lot this year. McLaurin would be my pick because I do think you're going to be able to get a good quarterback the next round or the round after.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm okay with that too. I mean, that to me is like, that's one of those things where if you want to go QB because you're super high on Herbert, do it, right? But if you're looking at it saying, yeah, no, but I can get better value later, like you say, Dale, and then if you can't, then you just punt it, right? You just punt QB and you say, yeah, well, I'll take someone else. Derek Carr has been way down the list. He's been going super late. Guys like that, it's like, all right, sure, I'll take Derek Carr in the 9th round. Like, what are we doing here, right? So, even Aaron Rodgers has been dropping. Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. I know he doesn't have anyone to throw to, but he's still Aaron freaking Rodgers. Like, he's going to be fine,
Yeah. It reminds me of those years when, I'm not comparing Brady to anybody. I get it. But, when Brady didn't have any receivers, you'd be like, where's he going to throw to? And then, he still threw for like 8,000 yards.
Right.
He's making Aaron Dobson and Kendall Tompkins look like
exactly
receivers.
Exactly.
Aaron Rodgers is good enough to make a superstar, right? I mean, it helps having Devontae Adams out there, but
of course, right. But it's still Aaron Rodgers.
Like,
exactly. If he's going outside the top 5 quarterbacks or top 6 quarterbacks, like you're getting him in the 7th round, that's insane value for a guy like Aaron Rodgers.
I agree.
So, all right, let's do McLaurin here. I'm on board with that.
I like it. Yeah. Okay.
Because now we got 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers too. Yeah, that's good.
And now you can kind of go.
And of course,
Kittle, best player available here. You can go with your quarterback. You can go tight end if you like the value. You're getting your flex guy if you want.
Yep. So round 5, then of course. So Herbert and Mahomes went at the end of round 4. The top of round 5, the first 4 picks was Kittle, Metcalf, Cooper, Darren Waller. So you missed out on both of our tight ends, but that's okay. That's okay because what that does is leaves us with a ton of wide receivers still on the board. Lamar Jackson still sitting there if we want him. Brandon Cooks is another guy. People are starting to finally catch on with Brandon Cooks, but like all he does is have 1,000 yards receiving every single freaking year. Like people are starting to catch on, so you can't draft him in the 7th or 8th round anymore. But like it just gets to a point where it's like he just does it every single year with it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, right? So I like that. What's your opinion on Hollywood Brown? Because Hollywood Brown had 140 targets last year, right? So like is he going to get the same amount of he won't get that many targets in Arizona, but especially with DeAndre Hopkins out the first 6 weeks, how do you feel about him?
I'm sorry, about Marquise Brown?
Hollywood Brown. Oh, Marquise Brown,
Yeah. I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's a top 24 wide receiver. With or without, DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's a speedy. He can take the top off. Again, we're all hoping that Kyler Murray continues to get better. That offense is going to move again. So I think the Cardinals have a lot of opportunity to score. I think Marquise Brown I don't think he's a value here. I do think I wouldn't pick him as early 5th, but the biggest value that I see and you can call me crazy, is Brandon Cooks. I think Brandon Cooks should probably be drafted before Jalen Waddle, Travis Etienne. I think he should be drafted before Deontay Johnson. Yeah, I'm ranked pretty high. I think Davis Mills, we talked about this a little bit on our podcast last week. He's not afraid to throw the ball. He's not afraid to air it out. Like he has no F's given when he's throwing the ball around. I mean, if you ever bet on him, and I bet on him a lot against him, especially, and you hold your breath every time he drops back because every time it looks like he's winding up for a 60-yard pass every single time. I don't know, is he going to change his game? I don't know, but that's my whole reasoning, my crazy thoughts behind Brandon Cooks being really, really good value here.
Is there any part of you that thinks Lamar Jackson could be good value here, or are you just still waiting on quarterback at this point?
I think this is about where he should be taken, somewhere in the 5th round. I'm okay with that. I don't think it's a good value. I'm looking to see where I have Lamar Jackson. Yeah, he's about where he should go. So yeah, not a good value, but if you want Lamar Jackson, I think it's time to take him. In my opinion, you just keep waiting until you see that one value, green flag pop up.
Well, and that's
quarterback.
Listen, this is what Dale keeps talking about, and I think you're so on point with it, Dale. Is that ultimately fantasy football is fun, and if you love Lamar Jackson and Lamar is your guy, and you think he's going to be, has a chance to be the number 1 quarterback again and MVP conversation, all that crap, take him. Like, he's there, take him. He may not be great value right now, but like if he's the guy that you're like all in on, then do it. You know what I mean? And so. And I think that's, or like Dark Blue Gold has a good point here about drafting Hollywood Brown, because he doesn't feel that Hopkins is the same guy he was, right? He was disappointment last year in Arizona. So he feels like Hopkins is falling off. Brown's going to take that step to be the number 1 guy in Arizona. And so he's kind of betting on what he feels like, right? So is he reaching a little bit for Marquise Brown? Sure. But he's doing that because he feels like, okay, I see this kind of happening. And so I'm going to go with it. It might be a little bit of against the grain, and I'm going to have to reach for him a little bit to do it, but that's how I feel, and so I'm going to go get my guy. And so ultimately, listen, we can go back and forth about a million different things, but ultimately it's about what you feel. And one other thing I'll talk about here that I'll talk about, and then I'll let you go, Dale, is that Allen Robinson right now has got the red, the little red on him saying that he has a conflicting bye week with A.J. Brown, okay? And so oh, well, okay, they got the same, but doesn't matter. Don't pay attention to bye week. It makes no difference. Yeah. Do not even look at it because it doesn't matter. Because if if we're starting to worry about bye weeks, it's like, okay, fine. Everyone on my flipping team could have the same bye week. It doesn't matter. Then, okay, 1 week I lose. Great. But then I'm good for every other week. It doesn't make a difference. So don't even pay attention to bye weeks. It doesn't matter.
2 months from now. Like a lot changes in 2 months. Exactly. And, I always say, my wife drives her crazy. I always say, let future Dale deal with it.
Right. Right.
Let's just have fun. Let future Dale deal with it.
Yeah.
I do have a question while we're talking about kind of missing time. We're talking about the Arizona receivers. Where do you have DeAndre Hopkins? How do you value a guy like that this year who's going to be missing that much time, but who, when he's back, he could be a legit wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 when you're playing your championship game?
Look, I play to win. You can quote that, by the way, if you want. You're not going to win with him on your bid. What is it, 6 weeks, right?
Yeah, 6 weeks.
Yeah. So you're not going to win with a guy, sitting in IR for 6 weeks. I'm drafting guys that I can win weeks. I can get ahead if I can go, 5-1. Like I'd much rather be 5-1 than be, 2-4 with DeAndre Hopkins on my IR and he's going to bring my team back. I'd rather get guys that are going to help me win in the beginning of the season.
Is there a point though where that becomes valuable, where you're looking at them late in the draft and it's okay? This is the round where I feel good about it.
Yeah, around 9 probably, right? Okay. Eighth round, 9th round, somewhere around, and this isn't going to sound crazy, probably somewhere around like Robert Woods, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, like those guys, like somewhere around there. Maybe Chris Olave, how you were saying his
Olave.
name.
Olave,
the rookie
yeah.
moron. Olave,
That's
yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more, Dale, because I like DeAndre Hopkins, but again, I like him because I'm able to get that value on him because he's out the first 6 weeks of the season. So it's like, hey, I can now get that value, right? And the other thing for me is that I'm looking at guys when I'm drafting rookies, or when I'm taking shots later on, I'm taking shots on guys like Jameson Williams. And the reason I'm doing that is because I don't draft a defense and a kicker ever. Don't do it. I don't do it. And so what I can do, I draft Jameson Williams. The second I draft him, he goes right to my IR and I pick up a defense or a kicker, right? So so it allows me to kind of free up a roster spot instantaneously, right? So that's one of those things where I'll take Hopkins. I don't think Hopkins can go on IR if he's suspended, but he might be able to. Some leagues,
He is in our league, Pat. That's where I have him right now.
So there you go. So it just depends on the league, right? So sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. But again, that gives you now additional position flexibility because you're able to move him to IR and then fill up a roster spot with something else.
Look, I'll tell you what. I'd say if we're in the 5th round, right? Just whatever. I'm just throwing this out there. If we're drafting 5-5, and the guy at 5-4 has to decide between Hopkins and Brandon Cooks, and he takes Hopkins, do you feel like he just got one up on you, or do you feel like you're getting value?
Crazy. That's crazy.
Right? So
yeah, that's too
right?
early.
So
that's
you got to think, at all times, like, hey, if somebody else got him here, would I feel like their team is better, or does it help me out?
Well, and that's the big thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's all about listen, I'll draft anybody. I will draft literally anybody out there at the right spot. Right? Like there are a lot of guys I won't draft until the 10th round or 11th round. Mm-hmm. But if they're sitting there in the 12th round, 13th round, I'll draft them. Sure, why not? Because the value is good at that point. You know what I mean? So that's one of those things for me that I'll draft anyone. It doesn't matter to me. So, but let's do Cooks here because I love the Cooks pick. And again, he's one of those guys that to me is being Jerry Jeudy. He's my guy.
Hey Pat, at what round is Trey Nixon good value?
Oh, shut up. All right. God damn it. My guy, Trey Nixon. Next year, Trey Nixon's going to be the guy. I'm telling you.
Get him in your dynasty leagues now.
There goes Pierce. There he goes at the end of the 5th, right? Dameon Pierce.
Yeah.
So,
Lamar Jackson, Dalton Schultz, Kyler Murray, Rashad Penny in the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Right before us, Marquise Brown at 607. Dang, he could have almost fell to us. I think that would have been pretty nice.
Yeah, that would have been really nice. And I'll tell you what. This is where now I'm at the point right now, and I maybe consider taking Brady, but I'm going to wait another round or two. Burrow's gone, Hurts is gone, Murray's gone, Jackson's gone. Like all those guys. By the way, I'm not drafting. I said I'd draft anyone. I'm not drafting Kyler Murray in any leagues unless he drops to the 15th round. I'm so sick of him getting hurt every damn year. He's going to get hurt in the middle of the season, and it's going to absolutely crush your team. So draft a good backup quarterback if you're drafting Kyler Murray. But
I see we've got J.K. Dobbins on the board there. What is his injury situation right
now? As far as I know, he's probably not going to play week 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's all I know right now. And will he play week 2? And Jeff Hasley, the football guy, he mentioned it, I think on Twitter the other day. He's like, okay, he might not play week 1. Will he play? Are you going to play him on week 2? If you're probably not going to play him week 2 because he didn't play week 1. You don't know his status coming in week 2. So now you're looking at week 3, maybe like that you can actually use him on your fantasy team.
Right.
Again, that's 2 valuable weeks that you don't have your 6th round pick, or 5th or 6th round pick. So
yeah, it's tough, and that's one of those things, like you said, where you have to take him. That's. It just comes back to, like you said, comes back to value, right? So, and where you're willing to take a guy. Again, Dobbins drops to the 8th, 9th round or 8th round. Sure, I'll take him because I think, ultimately he's going to be the number 1 back in a very good rushing offense. But in the 6th round, like you say, he might not come back to the 3rd, 4th game of the season. You're missing all of that time with him, right? So that's those are valuable weeks, right?
So I'm kind of the persuasion. I don't mind missing some of those weeks on the front end because if you only lose 1 game because of something like that, and you end up with an RB2 caliber guy by mid-season, if you think Dobbins can be that guy, then you might have a team here with an RB1 and 2 RB2s. If you're making the playoffs, then that one loss at the beginning of the
point.
season doesn't matter that much, and it matters who your team is by the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's a good
Hey,
point.
yeah, 1 or 2 games isn't going to kill you, right? So yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't know. Looking at wide receivers, what does our roster look like? We have Henry, Chubb, AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, Brandon Cooks. What do you guys think about balancing your roster, or are you constantly going after value, or are you looking at your roster saying, I'm at 3-2, maybe I should start balancing?
If I have,
yeah, go ahead,
if I already have 2 flex guys, that's when I start looking at balancing. But I always try to maximize running back and wide receiver. I mean, you can't have enough depth there, and you can pretty much you can get by with a late round quarterback. You can get by with a late round tight end. You need to have depth at running back and wide receiver.
Cool.
I agree. Yeah, I agree 100%. That's kind of where I'm at too. Like, I'm not too worried about the numbers. Now, of course, if I'm in like round 6 or round 7 and I have 1 running back, okay, now I got to draft another running back, or if I have 1 wide receiver, all right, now I got to worry about balancing. But for the most part, as long as I have starters in both spots, I'm not really worried about balancing things out. If great wide receivers keep dropping to me and everyone keeps taking running backs, it's like, well, what do you want me to do? I gotta take the best guys available. So, so I think that's kind of that's the way I do it too.
Cool. So I don't know what direction you guys want to go. I think we could keep waiting on tight end. Waiting on quarterback would be my suggestion. And then we're looking at Dallas Goedert, which I write up my rankings before every single draft, and I'm looking at them right now on my screen, and I go by them pretty religiously. And so when I see guys that I don't feel like are a value, I ignore them. So Dallas Goedert, I'm ranked he should be drafted in the early next round. Rashad Bateman is an okay value right here, but I kind of think that you can wait around for Bateman. Yeah. And I know I'm sure you have your opinions on Elijah Moore being a Jet and all, but I think if you can get Elijah Moore in the next round, right now he's ranked where I should draft him. But I really think we can wait a whole round and still get him there and still get him a value.
Right.
So that's kind of tricky too, when you're looking at some of these players that you have ranked so high, but everybody else doesn't. Do you wait on him and get him where he should go? Or, do you grab him before anybody else has a chance?
So I'm saying, it feels like you don't think any of these guys on this screen are good value right now.
No, I don't. I think not really, man.
Yeah, Gibson, Thomas.
It's
Dobbins,
weird.
Bateman. Yeah, it's not. They're not. Yeah, I agree with you. I actually do agree with you. So one thing Dark Blue Gold is talking about here is his main issue with leaving 2 tight ends. With leaving tight ends and quarterbacks to super late, you end up streaming between 2 and usually getting it wrong. I don't necessarily blame him feeling that way, but here's my point with the quarterback situation, right? If you just click on quarterback right now, Dale, we're in round 6. I know Tom Brady is there. He's going to have a great season. Right now, on the board, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Trey Lance, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, like all of those guys are, Kirk Cousins, like all of those guys are going to put up big numbers, right? They're all going to put up numbers this year. Why are you drafting Tom Brady in the 6th round when you can get Aaron Rodgers or Matthew Stafford in the 8th round? It just doesn't or Dak Prescott in the 8th round. Like what? Wouldn't you rather have Dak Prescott or Matthew Stafford in the 8th or 9th round than Tom Brady in the 6th round? Like it's just, that's my thing with quarterbacks. Yeah. Okay. Don't draft the last quarterback in the draft, but you can get a quarterback that you're going to play every single week. Tight end is tough, but again, okay, you look at tight end and it's like, well, I'm drafting him over a guy that is going to really produce. And yeah, okay, maybe he's a little bit better than replacement level, but how much better, right? And that's kind of the problem that I'm with here, because it's kind of like, well, sure, we can draft Dallas Goedert, but like, what does he give us a huge advantage somehow? Like, he really doesn't,
Right. So if we're drafting the best player available, the best player for me is Elijah Moore, but I really think we can get Elijah Moore next round. So do we want to waste that pick for a player we can get next round? Or do we get somebody like Rashad Bateman, who I think a lot of people have him ranked a little higher than Elijah Moore.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's a good point, right? And because you got to draft the way other people are drafting. Dark Blue Gold's also mentioned about Juju. I think Juju's going to have a big year this year. You know, and so that could even be a guy that we could target. We're not going to get him next round. And again, this comes back to, what do you think? What do you want? What do you like? You know, there's a good chance that guys like Bateman and Juju and even J.K. Dobbins, they're not going to be around next round, right? They're not making it all the way to next round. So if you're like, hey man, he's going to have a big year this year, I got to have him, draft him, right? If you feel the same way about Dobbins, right? Matt, you were saying Dobbins, if you think Dobbins is going to be, you know, a solid RB2 by the end of the year, then draft him, because you're not going to get him in the 7th round, right? This is the spot you're going to have to take him, right? So maybe it's not great value, but it's like, ultimately, if that's the guy you want, then take him, you know? And I think that's really what it comes down to at this point. And that's why I like the tier system so much, because it's like, hey, all right, maybe he's not the highest guy, and maybe he's like a little bit lower than I should, but like ultimately it is what it is. I'll take him here, you know?
So the lower the ranks go, the bigger my tiers get. And it's crazy. Elijah Moore's at top of tier 7. J.K. Dobbins and Rashad Bateman are in the middle of 7. So we're all in the same tier here. Funnily enough. So
I like Dobbins here too, because I think if you have a team that already has a couple running backs you like, you can go for the home run swing. If you have 3 running backs who can be good, that alone can win you a league late in the season. And if you think you can get a value there, I mean, they're going to run the ball a lot in Baltimore. We know that. If Dobbins is healthy, he's going to get looks. He already ran for almost 1,000 yards when he was healthy. So that would be my pick here.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. You've swayed me. I like it. Nice pick, it says.
Did it say that?
The machine.
It says it on the thing. I don't know. So, all right, right after him goes Damian Harris, then Michael Thomas, then Amon-Ra St. Brown, Antonio Gibson, Juju. And so the top of round 7, Juju, Thielen, Bateman, and then Dak Prescott. Tom Brady's still sitting there if you want to take Tom Brady. I don't, but he's still sitting there if you want to take him. Your guy, Dale Elijah Moore. Why are you so high on Elijah Moore, Dale?
I just think he's a baller. He played unreal. I think after again, the stupid stat. I don't remember. But it was like after week 7, he had like a crazy target share. And yards per attempt or yards per catch. It was all his metrics were up there like in the second half of the season. And Zach Wilson, I don't think he's going to be out for very long. Even if not, I think Joe Flacco would be just fine.
They might be better off if Zach Wilson is out.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah. He did have a good connection with Zach Wilson, but regardless, I think Elijah Moore is just one of those guys. He's just a baller. Like, he'll find ways to get open. He's fast. He's good hands, and he's just being severely underdrafted.
All right, so let's do it. Round 7. Like it. Put it on the board. Elijah Moore.
All
right.
DeAndre Hopkins was taken right after in 7:06. Woods, Renfro at the end of the 7th. Wilson, Drake London, rookie out of Atlanta, was taken at the end of the 7th. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, Tyler Lockett, Allen Lazard in the middle of the 8th round. And now it's our time.
So here we are in the 8th round again. Aaron Rodgers staring us in the face, right? And this is the spot for me. If you're in the 8th round and you like Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if anyone really likes Aaron Rodgers, but you think he's good at fantasy football, you take a guy like that, right? Like that to me is one of those things that, that I like, because now it's, again, you're taking a quarterback that you like a lot, that you think is going to be a solid quarterback. Like Aaron Rodgers not being QB1, I think is out of the question. Like, I think Aaron Rodgers is definitively going to be a QB1 this year, in my opinion. And so that's one of those things. Like another guy, so 2 running backs I want to ask you about. Number 1 is Ramondre Stevenson. Okay. And number 2 is Cordell Patterson. Cordell Patterson, I just feel like people forgot about Cordell Patterson. Like he literally was the reason I was in half of the playoffs I was in last year, because he just carried that Atlanta team. and they don't have anyone behind him. I know they drafted Tyler Algier or whatever his name is, dude, but like, come on, dude, that guy's not playing over him. Like Cordell Patterson's the number one running back in Atlanta, and oh, by the way, he plays like slot wide receiver too. I don't understand why no one's drafting Cordell Patterson. Make it make sense, and then I also want you to talk about Ramondre as well.
Yeah, as far as Cordell Patterson, I hate going against him. I've never drafted him and never had him on my team because I don't believe in him. And somehow he ends up like going crazy every single week. And it's like every week he did well. I'm like, oh, that was a fluke. Then he did 2 weeks. Like, that's a fluke. And the whole season, it's like, what is going on here? Doesn't make sense. Like, I don't feel like he's even a running back. He runs like it looks like he's staying straight up when he's running.
Yep.
It's like, what's going on? So yeah, I have him as my running back 34. I mean, I think this is about the round and the tier that you take him if you want him. You tell me about Stevenson. I don't know.
Well, Matt, why don't you tell him about Stevenson?
I don't know. I see the upside with Stevenson. He has all the traits to be a number one back. I just get scared of taking New England running backs. Stevenson has the upside of potentially being the third down back this year, or at least sharing reps there. And that's just more looks, more points. But I don't know. See, the running back, when I look at the screen, the guy that actually catches my eye, and I don't know if this is the right round for him, I don't know if this is the right value, it's Kareem Hunt. In part because we already have Nick Chubb. You can get a little bit of insurance there, but Kareem Hunt, we talked about it, is a guy who can be a legitimate starter in this league. We know he's not happy in Cleveland. You could kind of pick him up and bet he might get moved somewhere else. If he does, he might get more of a share. I think this is probably too early to take him if that's what you're looking for out of him. But I think he has upside there.
Yeah, I have Hunt in the same tier as Patterson and Stevenson.
Yeah.
Stevenson I think he's going to win you weeks and he's going to lose you weeks. I think some weeks he can get 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then next, and then some weird game where he gets 30 yards and nothing. I really think that's going to happen, but I do think he's going to win some weeks for you. Just
scary.
How to predict that? Who knows?
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. I agree with you on that one. That's where it's scary, man.
If you have him, when do you start him?
Well, it depends on who. Yeah, well, when do you start him? Yeah, I don't know. It depends on who else is on your team. Like if we draft Ramondre at this point in the 8th round, we're never starting him unless there's a bye week. Yeah. I mean, obviously injuries happen, right? But we're never going into a week saying, "Yep, I'm comfortable with Ramondre here," because we're not, unless Damian Harris goes down with an injury, and then he's the number one running back, and you say, "Okay, well, he's going to get all of the usage," right? But beyond that, you just have no idea, So it's that's a hard thing to do. It was funny. It's funny because I was super high on Damian Harris last year. I was way higher than everyone else. I was like, he's going to have a monster year. And I nailed it. He didn't have, I said he was going to have 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns. He had like 900 yards and 15 touchdowns. So it ended up being about the same amount of fantasy points. He finished comfortably as an RB2. But now this year, I feel like he's getting drafted too high, right? He was going in the 9th round last year. And it was like, yeah, draft him in the 9th round because he's going to finish an RB2. Now he's getting drafted in the 6th, 7th round. And I'm like, I don't know, Ramondre looked really good last year. They might pull away from Damian a little bit. Like, I'm having a hard time drafting Damian Harris in leagues, and so that's one of those things for me that I think it's all about the value again. Like it comes back to value, which is why I like Patterson, because we can get him in the 10th round. Like we're going to be able to draft Cordell Patterson probably in the 10th round, and so that's where the value comes into play where, yeah, okay, maybe you don't love Cordell Patterson, but like, he's better than Melvin Gordon. You know what I mean? Like, and he's the number one back in Atlanta. So, so that's kind of where my head's at least for it. So my thought is pass on running back here and kind of go wide receiver. But, we wouldn't necessarily have to do that. But like Ayuk is a guy that.
Yeah, I like Ayuk
right?
here.
Yeah, a lot of offseason hype for sure. Yeah. I think Debo has his role carved out.
Yeah.
And I think Ayuk is going to get much better. He's out of the doghouse. So it seems. He's had a pretty good offseason. I like Ayuk a lot too.
Yeah, agreed.
And this is a point in the draft where you can go for that high upside home run swing type of guy. If you take Ayuk here and he isn't that guy, then he's just going to be the guy you play when there's a bye week. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what you're drafting them, so it's okay, right?
Yeah.
Right.
If he's something more, then you really got something. But
Exactly.
all
All
you
right,
need is for him to give you 3 or 4 weeks. Maybe.
Let's hit it. Love it. All right, Cordero went right after him. Someone
Mm-hmm.
took a defense. Oh my
What's
god!
the team
If
looking
you
like
take
right now?
a flipping defense before the last round, just like stop doing that.
So we need a tight end, don't we?
We need
We
a tight
do.
end and we need a quarterback. So we have tight end. Look at how high Dale's
Goddard is
still on the board.
If Goddard is still there, I feel like at this point he's
So
valuable.
here's my only question: did Aaron Rodgers go yet?
Let's see.
I don't think he did.
I didn't see him. Nope, he's still there.
Still
Should
there.
we try to grab a tight end and a quarterback with our next 2 picks here?
So let's do that. I think we're going to stop at round 10 anyways. So let's take a tight end and a quarterback. The question is, do you want to take a tight end now or do you want to take a quarterback now, Dale? And I'll kind of leave it to you because we can look at what, and then Mohammed, I know Mohammed asked about his team, what we think. His team looks pretty nasty, but we can talk about his team afterwards because he had a question about that. But we're looking right now at Goddard, Hawkinson, Zach Ertz, and I don't know who's behind them, but really it doesn't really matter who's behind them.
Yeah. Now it's Goddard. Goddard's a huge value right now. Yeah, he's my 7th tight end. Dawson Knox, Cole Kmet, which I think. I mean, all these guys are just fine, but I think Goddard is probably in a tier above. Goddard and TJ Hawkinson's probably a tier above the rest of these guys.
Right. I would agree.
I think Goddard, is a really good value here.
Yeah, I agree with you. And this is a situation again where, okay, we're going to take a quarterback, but like the value of QB right now isn't quite as good. And like, I almost have those guys in similar tiers. So I'd rather wait and see, okay, one of those QBs is going to drop to us. And guess what? They all dropped to us. Nobody took a quarterback in between. Few tight end, 1 or 2 tight ends went, did they not? And so, no quarterbacks went. We're looking at maybe no tight ends went, but either way, we're looking at Trey Lance, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers. They have Lance as the number 1 here. I would not draft Trey Lance over Matthew Stafford or Aaron Rodgers. I understand the hype. I get it. But like, I still don't know if San Fran is sold. I just don't like. They refuse to trade Jimmy G. And so like, I don't know. What does that tell you? That to me, that tells you that like they're scared to death that Trey Lance is going to go out there and blow it up. And now they got to take him out and put in Jimmy G. I don't know if I just don't know if they trust him. And so,
well, Pat,
I don't trust him.
I was at this point doing a mock draft the other day, and I was able to double dip and get Trey Lance, and I don't remember if it was Stafford or Rodgers in the next round, kind of giving myself an insurance on that pick.
You could do that too.
Dale, what do you think about that strategy? Taking a high upside quarterback and a safer pick?
I don't. The safer pick I don't think is really necessary, especially in a 1 quarterback league. After the draft, maybe we could simulate all the way to the bottom and figure out what running quarterbacks would be available on the waiver wire. But it would be guys like probably like Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, right? Jameis Winston on the waiver wire. So like, I probably wouldn't waste a pick, and especially if you're drafting quarterback now. If I were to get somebody like Justin Fields, I'd want to get like Trevor Lawrence or Jameis Winston, right? Or if I really waited a long time and something crazy happened, I got Matt Ryan. Then of course double down. But I think if you're going to get Trey Lance, definitely. I think a lock, and I know this is going to sound bold, but I think he's a lock for a top 12 quarterback performance.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I do. I think he's that good. The dude, he scrambles. He's an athlete. He can throw the ball. He really limits his mistakes, and that's I get it. That's a plus and a minus. When you're looking at quarterbacks, because he doesn't take a lot of chances, but he's not going to kill you with interceptions. He's not going to lose you games. I don't think that's not what we've seen so far from him.
He's got a ton of weapons. A ton of weapons.
And yeah, I mean the offenses ran amazingly. Between Kittle, Debo, the emergence of Elijah Mitchell, they also have a couple of people behind Elijah Mitchell, of course Brandon Ayuk, and what's that? I think that rookie wide receiver Danny Gray. I think he's going to shine a little bit and help him out. So
yep,
I don't know. I like Trey Lance a lot, but
I'm
been watching
on
a lot
board
of
with it.
49ers stuff.
I'm on board with it. I'm okay with it, right? It's like one of those things where it's
I see your
Rodgers,
hesitancy.
Stafford, Trey
I see
Lance,
it.
like, you know. Now I will say, here's what I'll say, right? I do think that Lance is a value here at 10. I would say if you're in the situation where you're looking at it and one of these wide receivers or one of these running backs is staring you in the face and you're high on them, maybe even a little bit higher on them, take them, because Derek Carr is a guy that I can't believe Derek Carr is not getting drafted. Like, Derek Carr is getting drafted super late.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Josh McDaniels in that offense with Devontae Adams, with Hunter Renfrow, with Darren Waller. Like, he's going to finish as a QB1. It's going to happen. So, like, why? And I know he's more of a safe pick than Trey Lance. Like, Trey Lance is a guy that, okay, you say, Dale, and that's a pretty bold prediction, but I like it, that he's guaranteed to basically finish as a QB1. He could finish as a top 3 to 5 QB, right? Derek Carr's not going to finish up in that level because he doesn't have the added bonus of the running, but still, he's still going to throw for 1 billion yards this year and a ton of touchdowns. So, like, if you can draft him in the 12th round, what the hell? You know what I mean?
Derek Carr, I think it's important to note that the Raiders defense is going to be horrible, probably one of the worst in the league.
Right.
So are they going to have to throw a lot? Are they going to be behind a lot? You know, that makes a big difference. And, with San Francisco, looking at Trey Lance, are they going to play close games? I could see San Francisco winning games, 14-10, as opposed to the Raiders going to have to catch up from, after halftime. So,
that's a good point.
I could see Trey Lance winning a game with 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Derek Carr is going to have to sling it.
But let's go for the upside and take Trey Lance, and we're going to finish in round 10, and kind of go from there. I do like our team quite a bit. Julio Jones in the 11th round is just insanity. But whatever. So our team, top to bottom here, quarterback is Trey Lance, running back Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb, wide receivers AJ Brown and Terry McLaurin. Our tight end is Dallas Goedert, and our flex position is Brandon Cooks. And 3 guys on our bench is J.K. Dobbins, Elijah Moore, and Brandon Ayuk. I think that's a pretty solid. I think it's a pretty solid lineup. A pretty solid lineup. Again, not perfect, but a pretty solid lineup through 10. If you're looking at that team in a 12-team league, at number 10, through 10 rounds, I'm sorry. I think that's about as solid as a team as you can ask for, I think.
Yep.
Not to pat ourselves in the back or anything like that, but I think we did a nice job with the mock drafting. So, all right, Muhammad had a quick question about his team. He had a 10-man league. Let's see. It looks like Jalen Hurts, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, James Conner, Schultz, and then Prater and the Bills don't matter. But it's a pretty solid team. He wants to know a rating out of 10. I don't know if you'll rate him out of 10, but I think that's a pretty darn solid team. I mean, with you assume in the first round he probably went Kupp. I don't know. I have no idea who he went in the first round because Najee should also have been a first round pick, and you could argue Swift should have been a first round pick. So I don't know how the hell he got all those guys.
Yeah,
but
Kupp, he probably got Kupp late in the first.
Yeah,
turned around and got Najee and Swift. Maybe I don't know, but that's 10 teams. It's hard to rate 10 teams because I don't play in them a lot,
right?
Actually, ever. So I would rate out of 10. I'd give him 8. I don't really
8 out of
8.
10.
Yeah, 8.5. I'll give him 8.5.
8.5.
I don't really see any holes.
B plus.
Connor and his flexes. I like it.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. So, and look, ultimately it comes down to, draft the guys, and I keep saying it, draft the guys you want. Draft the guys that you're high on, that you like, that you want. So, that's where I'm at. So, anyways, it's been fun, Dale. Man, you come on here, we talk about a billion guys, we talk about a ton of draft strategy. We always go over an hour, and here we are, hour and 20 minutes. But we appreciate you coming through. I'm gonna remove this because we don't need this anymore. But thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. And Eat Sleep Fantasy, man. Eat Sleep Fantasy is just, you guys are the best. I love it. It's a good little spot. I got to do more for you guys. Is what I have to do. But
you do.
we'll
I know.
We'll see.
We need your talent, man.
I know. Well, listen, I keep telling you I'm going to go on a podcast, and you're like, "Yep, and then I'm like, "All right, when are we gonna do it?" And you're like, "I'll let you know." I get the feeling that you don't really want me on there.
No. It's been brutal. Scheduling has been brutal for me and Clayton.
So no, I get it.
We're gonna do it. No.
So,
I'm sorry.
but plug yourself before we leave. Let everyone know where they can see you, read you, hear you, find you, everything else like that.
Yeah, Eat Sleep Fantasy on all major platforms for podcasts. We're on YouTube, Twitter at Eat Sleep FF. That's about it. EatSleepFantasy.com is a website.
Yep. Yeah, and like I said, that the tiers are going to be in there. If you've never drafted using tiers, it's going to change your life because the tiers really kind of break things out for you and make it easy for you to make your selections because you're not just drafting based on the rankings that are in front of you. You're actually looking at the rankings too, and you can look at, oh, this guy's in this tier and that guy's in this tier, and so maybe I can wait on this position, right? So it really does help. So but anyways,
awesome.
That's what we got.
Well, Matt, it was nice meeting you, man. Nice talking to you.
Yeah,
as
nice
always,
to meet
Pat. I appreciate you.
Of course, my friend.
Yeah, we'll see you next year.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So, and thanks for everyone. Thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate it, and we'll be back next week. Will be our season preview next week. The flipping regular season is here. So, we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon, guys.